this is Kyle from Teacher's Teacher, and we are here with a couple quick tips and some advanced uses of Google Sheets. So I'm in the same sheet that I used at the end of the last video, so I just want to show you a couple more things that I think are pretty helpful. So the first thing, if we click on this box that we had before, now we inserted text into this box, but what we can also do, just like in a Google Doc or in a Google Slides presentation, is we can actually insert a link to paste to that as well. And the cool thing is we can actually link it to another sheet within this spreadsheet. So if I want to do that, if I want to select arrange, I can actually go click and drag maybe to these averages that I had last time in this other sheet. I hit apply, and now this is linked to that. So if I click, open that up, it actually takes me right there. So it's pretty cool. You can link this to an external source, or you can link this to something else inside of the same document itself, which is pretty great. Now another cool feature that was recently added, the feature where you can actually insert images and you can put them directly into a cell. So you can always put images over a cell that you could move around, but you can also now add images inside of a cell. So if you want to add an image, and let's be super meta here, that I want to find an image of a cell that I'm putting inside the cell within the program, all I need to do is search for it, click it, but you'll see that it's extremely tiny because it's trying to fit within this one specific cell that it was inputted into. Now to make this bigger, all I need to do is go over to the side, and I know that I am in row 5, and I can actually click and drag and make this row a lot bigger. That'll increase the size of the cell. Or I can just highlight a bunch of different cells, including that image, and I can merge them just like I did last time. So now that's kind of one larger cell, and I can see that image. So this is pretty useful if you're trying to add images into whatever you're doing, or if you're having students fill things out because you shared this as a document to your class. It's just an easy way for them to add different things in. So let's look at a few other things that deal with the numbers, because Google Sheets is just so great for numbers. And let's go back to our exam scores that we had here. Now let's say that, I have my scores here, and I actually have my averages in my histogram, but I want this sorted out in a neater fashion so I know exactly which students that I need to help and which students who are probably doing pretty well, and maybe they could even give some help to some students who need it. So what I can do is I can actually sort this information from the highest score to the lowest score, or vice versa. So all I need to do is click on this specific column, and then you'll notice that if you hold your cursor over the top, there's this little drop down arrow. You click on that, and then you can sort from either A to Z or Z to A, or you could customize a specific range. So I'm going to sort it from A to Z. Now what that does is it puts the lowest at the top, and then if you continue to look down, you'll see that the highest scores are down at the bottom. Now it actually moved the average and everything else with it as well, and I don't really want that to happen, so I'm going to hit Control Z. I'm going to undo what I just did, and I actually want to freeze this row, because if I freeze this row, it's going to keep it at the top, and the only thing that I want to move are the averages, the test exam scores, and then the students that are associated with those scores and that average. So if I click on this row, I go up to view, and then I hit freeze, and I want to freeze the first 2 rows or to the current row that I have highlighted, which is what I want. So I'm going to hit freeze. Now you'll notice that there is a little gray bar that was added underneath right here. So if I start to scroll down, the cool thing is anything above this bar, the first 2 rows, it just remains there. It's kind of frozen there, and it's nice that it allows me to scroll. So if you have a really long list of students and you always want to know kind of what your columns or categories are, you can just freeze those rows and you can scroll down however far you want, and that information will always be there. So now if I go back to sort, and I go A to Z, so now you'll see that my frozen rows were still there. They did not get sorted in that context. And now I have my student who scored the lowest, student 5, and then the student who scored the highest on the exam, student 4. But that's still not enough. I want a better representation of this. I'm going to hit Control Z to unsort the information. Now what I can also do is I can use this pretty cool tool that's called Conditional Formatting. So I can format these text boxes based on a condition that I want to set within the parameters of the program. So I highlight the data set, I right click, I scroll down here, and I go to Conditional Formatting. So I go ahead and click on that. Now I can do different things to format these cells differently, but we're just going to stick with formatting them based on colors. So I can format this and change the background color of each individual cell based on the number that is present within that specific cell. Now I could pick the single color, but I don't really want that. I actually want to scale because I know that, you know, some students scored high scores, some of them low scores, and it's really just on a scale that I'm looking at. So I'm going to click color scale, and the one that makes the most sense to me is not the default. It's actually this one right here, which is red to white to green. So I click on that, and then it's going to compare the minimum value to the maximum value, and the minimum value is going to be this reddish color, and the maximum value is going to be this green color. So I hit done. So now I have a colorful representation of how the student scored, and then what I can do is I can click, I can resort it, and then you'll see that same thing. Like that's actually the condition that I set, and it looks identical to the picture. It's just another way to visualize things. And if you have a whole bunch of numbers, you're trying to sort things out, and maybe sort isn't working, maybe conditionally formatting in colors will work a little bit better for you. Now let's say that you're sharing this information with people, like you're going up and hitting this share button, and you know you're sending this document out, and you're also giving people privileges to edit, but let's say you only want them to edit the student names because you are maybe crunching data for a different teacher, you're just kind of helping them set things up, but you don't actually know all the students' names. So you shared this document with the other teacher, and this other teacher is going to add the names into the document. Now what you don't want this teacher to do is you do not want them to mess with any of this data. You only want them to add in the names. Okay, and let's just put names up here so we know. Now, an awesome thing about Google Sheets is that even if you're sharing it with people and you give them access to edit, you actually have the ability to lock and protect specific cells within a specific sheet or page that no matter who you share it with and what access they have, they cannot ever change those sheets until you give them permission. So I'm going to show you how to do that, which is a really cool feature. So let's highlight everything that we do not want anybody to touch except us, and that is essentially all of this data, right? So I highlight this, I'm going to right click, I'm going to scroll down to where it says protect range. So I click on that, and this new box will pop up. I can add a description for what I want to protect. So this is the raw student scores. Now I have it highlighted already, so all I need to do is hit set permissions because this specific range, so just these boxes right here, I'm going to set the permissions, and I want to set it to restrict who can edit this range, and I'm going to set it to just only me, so it says you only. So then I click done. So once I do that, you'll see that protected sheets and ranges from B2 to F17 and everything in between. I am the only one who can edit this. It is 100% completely locked. Even if I share this with somebody else and give them privileges to edit, they still cannot edit these text boxes. So it's a pretty great tool, and you can actually do the same thing with an entire sheet itself. So if you right click on the tab with the sheet's name, you can see protect sheet, and you can do the same thing. Say checkbox protection. And then I'm going to say set permissions, and then I'm going to say that I'm the only one who can edit it, and I'm going to hit done. So then you'll see that this lock pops up right here. So even if I share this with anybody else in the world and I give them access to edit, now they can no longer edit anything within this specific sheet, and they also cannot edit anything within this range right here because that is how I set my permissions. So that's all I have for a couple advanced features. There are so many more things that you can do with this program, and I really want you to spend some time messing around with this, getting comfortable with this, taking a look at the add-ons and the tools and what you can do with the data, because there's just so much more that you can do. And if you have any questions about anything else, please post them, and we can have a discussion about it together.